be on the recording, you're more than welcome to drop off. We will send this out to everyone once we are done with the session today. But first and foremost, on behalf of the Army Credentialing Assistance Program, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us and hearing what we have to say about the Army Credentialing Assistance Program. And hopefully by the end of what we have to tell you about, you'll be willing to join us to assist in helping our soldiers obtain their civilian industry credentials and licensures. With us today, we have our program manager, Mrs. Sophia Sweeney. We have our team members, Mindy, David, I see Tanya. And again, we see each and every one of you, and there's a great number of you out there today. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go over some of the high-level items of the Army Credentialing Assistance Program, give you that 30,000-foot view. And then if you're interested in joining or want to go forward with there, you're more than welcome to give us a contact and we can get you rolling with the application process. We will ask that during the session today that you make sure your microphones are on mute. And if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand at the top and you can type your messages in the chat. One of the team members will be happy to grab that for you. We have a lot of questions that were asked during our session last month that we actually included into some of our keynotes. But if you find something we're going along and you have a question about, feel free to go ahead and ask that question. Good. Make sure everybody's on mute. All right. Thank you for that. And we will get started. Today, we're going to talk about what is Army Credentialing Assistance. Hello? Sorry, if you could go ahead and put your microphones on mute. Thank you. All right, so we're going to talk about what is the Credentialing Assistance Program. We're going to talk about the new process for each and every one of you coming in as new vendors. That's going to divulge into the memorandum of agreement, the needed items for the application, such as the business license, the CV authorization letter, the training statistics, the website URL, course lists, and CAGE code. We'll talk a little bit about the approved vendor list, and then we'll have some program manager notes and Q&A. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll start out with what is Army Credentialing Assistance. So many of you, I don't know if you are familiar with the educational piece that our soldiers are privy to, where they can pursue their associates, bachelor's, master's degrees. That is considered the tuition assistance program. This is the credentialing assistance program where the soldiers have the opportunity in their off-duty time to obtain civilian industry recognized credentials and licensures that will not only make them better soldiers while they're serving and give them tool sets that they can use to put into their everyday jobs, but it also allows them the opportunity to gain these industry recognized skill sets for when they choose or when they have to separate from the service. They have those skill sets in hand walking in on day one for a potential company that needs these skill sets. Now, some of you may get information, you may have emailed us and said, well, we want to hear about Army Cool, and each of the branches has a component of Cool, which is credentialing opportunities online, but we want you to understand how it flows on the Army Credentialing Assistance side. So Army Credentialing Assistance, which is our team, we are the team that is responsible for, that the soldiers will go to when they want to get funding to get civilian industry credentials and licensures paid for. This is also what you as a vendor will be a part of, is Army Credentialing Assistance. Army Cool, again, like I said, each service has a credentialing opportunities online program. However, the way the Army does our program is our Army Cool is a public-facing website, and it's like a library, or what we like to call our repository. And there's over 2,000 approved credentials and licenses listed in Army Cool that not only soldiers, but potential vendors, industry partners on the outside, they can all go and they can look at and they can evaluate what credentials have been approved for soldiers to be able to look at. And if there's some that may be missing on the list, there's even the opportunity to recommend those credentials be added to the main platform. The AI portal is what not only you, but we work out of as well. Sometimes we work out of both platforms, but this is what our vendors will be working out of, the AI portal. This is where you'll go in and update your information. You will, such as your contact information, your courses, your exams, your books, your study materials, all of that will be done through the AI portal. Once it's put in there, the soldiers will actually be able to view what you put into the system via the Army Ignited platform. This is where they will go. They will find the certification or license that they are interested in. They will select that item. They'll be able to look for you as a vendor. If you populate there and select you for who they want to go through to take their course or exam, and then they'll be able to submit their request for funding from there. So again, Army Credentialing Assistance is the team that we all fit under. Army Cool is a repository or your library per se. The AI portal is what all of our vendors will work out of. And then the Army Ignited platform is what the soldiers themselves work out of. So the soldiers are going to navigate through Army Cool. This is where they're going to start. They're going to find that credential that they're interested in, and they're going to complete a CA request, so what we refer to as a CAR, credentialing assistance request. Once that's submitted, it'll route through the CAPO team, and that's us, and we'll push it over to the finance team. If it's good to go, finance will notify via the authorization letter, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit, that you vendors can pull down and run the credit card number, and then the soldier can begin the course from there. Soldiers are required to upload a quote that matches what the vendor is listed in Army Ignited. So when a soldier wants to start a car, they're going to contact you first and say, hey, I'm soldier so-and-so. I see that you offer this course. I would like to get a price quote so I can submit it to Army CA to take this course. You will submit them that price quote. That quote needs to have at minimal the soldier's name, the start and end dates if there's a set time frame. If not, at least an expiration date for the quote. All the items that they receive and the total cost. Now, remember, we do not allow bundling, and we'll talk about that more as we get into the slides here. But if a soldier is wanting a prep course, they're wanting an exam, and they're wanting study material, you're going to have to provide them 3 separate quotes for that, one for each. When the payment and receipts are received and reconciled, the soldier will be informed that they can begin by CA Finance. And then, like I said before, soldiers cannot begin before payment is made. If a soldier begins a course and they have not been paid for by Army CA, by the finance team to you, and you've accepted the payment, then the soldier could be held liable to pay those costs out of pocket. So definitely make sure when you're talking to soldiers to make sure that, hey, we're not accepting money directly from you. It has to come from Army CA, or you're going to be responsible for paying all of this out of pocket. Before creating an account in Army Ignited and for the AI portal for you, and I'll go back and correct that, but before you can create an account in the AI portal, there's a couple items that you must have. That is the CAGE code. You want to make sure that you've gone to sam.gov and you've gotten your CAGE code. That is a critical item to making sure your information is submitted into the system. We do not control the CAGE code. Again, you have to get that from sam.gov. You must be in business for at least 2 years. There's no exception to that. If your company comes to us and they've only been in for a year and a couple months, you're going to have to wait until you hit that 2-year mark. And then, of course, if you don't have the above items, you will not be able to participate in Army CA. And there's other requirements that we'll talk about that are in the application. But these 2 are probably the hardest to obtain, or the longest to obtain, I should say. Any questions so far before we go into the new vendor process?
At the end, will you be able to forward these PowerPoints to us so we could use this to refer back to it?
Absolutely. Not only will we send you the PowerPoint, but we're also going to send you the copy of the video that's being recorded, so you'll have that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There was another question out there.
I do. So I would assume that if we are currently AI portal users and our CAGE codes and courses are already in there, we're basically already set up in the system. You still have to grant us or accept us into your program, and then we would have to add those specific sessions that the student needs to take. But I would assume that the rest of it's already set up as far as the CAGE code and the billing portion of it. Would that be correct?
So that is a great question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of our vendors already have my CAA accounts and they already have Air Force Cool accounts, because we all sit under the same system. However, you would still have to apply to be a part of Army CA. You're going to have to input that information in. And where you would do that, if you look on your AI portal homepage, there is a tab at the top that says School, and then you would select Funding Programs. And from there, you'll be able to select either Army Credentialing Assistance, Active, Guard, or Reserve. There should be, I think, just one option there for Army Credentialing Assistance. But you'll select that tab, and then you'll begin the application process there, and you'll put all your information in. Even though you're a part of the other programs, that's about where it stops. We all sit under the same program head, but we do not communicate as far as the information we give each system. So you would have to apply for Army CA separately from those other programs.
And how long does it take once we apply?
So once your application has submitted in there, our team actually goes into the AI portal to review new vendors several times a week. So we will let you know that if there's anything that you are missing from your application, and we'll go through some of those requirements during this training today, and that will be made available to you as well. But the process can usually go pretty quickly as long as you've got the information that's required for you to be a vendor with Army CA.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I just want to take a quick second here. I see that our director just jumped on as well, Mr. Steve Clare. Thank you for joining us today, sir. Make sure you have some time at the end if you want to jump in with Sophie and the PM side, if you wanted to give a shout out to the crowd as well. Miss Jenny, I see you have your hand up.
Hello, yeah. So I have worked with you a bit before, me and AJ Moore, he's here as well. So, and you've always been really, really helpful in helping us to understand this process and pathway. And I guess, we're trying to just get an idea on how long it can take for getting new programs approved, because it seems to be a lot longer than we'd anticipated. And just trying to get an idea on even who we might ask, because anytime we've asked somebody, we've just heard nobody else has an idea of what the maximum time frame is, but that it could be more than a couple years.
Okay, so you're referring to like you want to have a new credential added on to Army Cool?
Right, if we're adding a new, CompTIA credential, for example,
Okay.
Yeah, just
So
trying to get clarification on who can give us some more information and guidance in that department.
Absolutely. So, and that's not something that we per se we run. But when you go onto the Army Cool site on the home page, it has a yellow tab there that says request credential.
Right.
And if you've got a credential that you've already submitted a request in for, there is a box in there that you can submit and ask a question as far as like what's the status of a credential and so forth. You can also check and see on the Army Cool page, if you look under the Credentialing Assistance tab, about halfway down the page under resources, It has an option on there for the approved and removal list for that's updated monthly. You can see if that credential has been added or removed on there. But as far as asking the question, if you've not heard anything about it being approved or submitted yet, you can submit a request through there. And then if you still haven't heard anything back, let us know and we'll be happy to send an email up on your behalf.
All right. Well, thank you. That's really great to know of another place, an additional place I can check into. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Sophia, do you have any other messages that are sitting out there before we go forward? Or
there's
questions,
some,
sorry.
There's some, but we'll get through some of this, and then if those questions aren't answered within the slides, then we'll go ahead and let them ask the questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to the new vendor process. And again, please make sure your mics are muted for me. That way we don't get the feedback. Thanks, everybody. All right, so the new vendor process. So many of you may have received an email that looks very similar to this from someone on our team. And this is telling you, hey, congratulations, welcome. There's a soldier out there that wants you to be a part of Army Credentialing Assistance. And here's how we want you to do it. So there's instructions on how to get started on the process, but the first thing that we want you to start with before you do anything else in the system related is the MOA. You're going to receive that MOA as one of those attached documents, and there's two key parts that I'm going to key on here, but I definitely would stress that you read the entire MOA because it's got a lot of vital information in it as far as what you're responsible for, what we're responsible for, how we're going to work together to make sure that we stay within the guidelines of the Army Credentialing Assistance Program. But on the first paragraph, the top header paragraph here, I want to make sure that your vendor name is listed here. If your vendor name is not there, we're going to send it back to you and ask you to put it in there. So go ahead and make sure that's put in there first. The second part of it, down at the bottom in your signature block, you want to make sure that the signature of someone in your leadership hierarchy has signed there. And this is either your president, your vice president, your CFO, someone who, if God forbid this had to go to arbitration, would be able to legally represent your company in that situation. But that's what we need there. Of course, after that, we need the signature and the printed name of that individual, their title, and then again, the name of the vendor down under where it says agency name. Once you've done that, you can send that back to myself, Sophia, and Dottie. I believe Sophia just put our email addresses in the chat there. So you can send that back to us. We'll send it to our leadership for signature. And once your company has been approved to participate in the Army CA program, we will send you a signed copy of that MOA back in your approval email. One last thing as far as with the MOA, please do not use DocuSign. DocuSign keeps our leadership from being able to sign on their end, and it creates an issue. So if you need to, if you're having trouble with doing it digitally, please feel free to print it out, sign it, and then scan it back in. But do not use DocuSign. All right, so now you're going to get started with creating everything for the AI portal. And again, some of the previous slides that Army Ignited, I'll go back and fix those, but you're going to be doing your work out of the AI portal. But this is where we want you to start. And I was just talking about Army Cool and how it's the repository. We want you as a vendor to start there as well, because you're going to go on there, you're going to look under the credential search, and you're going to make sure that the training that you offer, or maybe even the exam you offer, is aligned to a credential that is approved in Army Cool. If it's not approved in Army Cool, it's not going to show up for soldiers in Army CA and when they look at it for Army Ignited. So make sure that credential is there. If the credential is not there, again, on the homepage of the Army Cool, there is a recommend credential tab in yellow on the left side. You'll select that tab. Sophia will go into the Army Cool and what it looks like and everything here a little later. but you will select that recommend credential tab, and then you can put as much information as you want as far as that credential and why it should be added to the site. The more information that you provide, I think the quicker turnaround you could possibly have with getting it approved or rejected based on its requirements. But again, the more information you can give them, the faster it could go. Let me see here. You also have on the credentialing assistance tab in Army Cool, you have the vendor CA process guide. That's a little bit of what we're going through today, but it gives you that process guide as well. I will include that in the email that I send out at the end as well. If you want to, you can look for it and find it on Army Cool under credentialing assistance right now. After your user profile has been created, you'll be able to start uploading your business license, your credentialing body authorization letter, your training statistics, your website URL, the course list, and cage code. Now, we have a lot of vendors that contact us back and say, wait a minute, we don't understand what you're talking about when you say credentialing body authorization letter. This is a letter, say you offer, and we like to use the Project Management Professional, the PMP, because that's a pretty well-known certification. But if you are offering a preparatory course or a boot camp for the PMP, you need to have a letter from PMI showing that you are an authorized training provider to provide that course on their behalf. So that's what we mean by the CV letter. If you do not have a CV letter, then you can provide us with the statistics for how many students have passed the certification within at least a minimum of a year as a result of your training. So those stats have to be at least for a minimum of a year, and they have to show those that have completed the certification exam as a result of your training, not just taking your training. The website URL, this can be on a Word document, as simple as copying the URL from your website, putting it onto the Word document. It's that simple. The course list, we have an example of that we'll send you guys as well if you need it. But the course list, the biggest thing we're looking for when you submit that to us is we need to know the name of the course, the name of the credential it aligns to, and the total cost. Don't give us any descriptive information or it includes these books for free or the student gets this free training voucher. The biggest things we're looking for on this section of it is if you have the name of the course, the credential it aligns to, and the total cost. Make sure also that when you're uploading courses and you're uploading all of your documents into the system, that they're in PDF format and that they're no bigger than 4 megabytes. If they're bigger than that, the system will not take it in and it'll kick you out an error message. How are we doing so far? Any questions before we go forward? Next
Yes.
couple slides, I'm going to show you what kind of some of that looks like. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I have a quick question for you. if you
I'm
don't
sorry,
mind.
sir, go ahead.
No worries. So with the credentialing information, if we have a letter from the FAA, would that suit as far as being able to provide our credentials and authorization?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there anything in particular? Is that just the letter that we have stating that our course is valid and good for 2 years and all that? Is that how
You've
would
got
be
it.
fine? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions before we go forward? Like I said, the next couple of slides are going to show you a little bit about what the process for doing the application looks like. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to that. So when you first log into the site, and we do know that there are times when individuals log in, this happens more than not, and we apologize up front. The system will say that the site is not secure. That is not true. The site is secure. There's a button on the there's a button on the bottom left side that says advance. You select that and then you click the link and it takes you into the site. So it is a secure site that you are going into. What you're going to do is you're going to select the register if this is your first time as a vendor coming in. You're going to want to select new institution account. Once you've gotten into the system, say you hire new employees or someone else that you want to be able to look over the system for Army CA or control different parts of Army CA as far as the finance or person who uploads grades, each individual person will need to create an individual user account, and they can do that there by selecting new user account. But we're going to work on the new institution account right now. All right, from there, you're going to select where it says here, Army Credentialing Assistance. All these other options are there and available, but you would need to contact those different entities as far as joining their programs. You're going to type in the name of your institution. Make sure here that you hit the next button, because if you select enter, for some reason it gives you an error code there, and then it'll make you take everything out and redo it anyway. So just hit the next button. We found that while I was working with a vendor a couple weeks ago. From there, you'll see the institution information page. You'll start with inserting your tax information if you're for-profit, not-for-profit, etc. Your teaching method, that'll be either distance learning via the computers. It'll be traditional in person, or you can be a hybrid approach of both, where you offer both. You'll put your website in here, your institutional address, and then you'll begin putting in those supporting documents that we were just talking about. First, that business license. Your business license is basically saying that you have the rights and privileges to operate within the state that you're in. Some states do not require a business license, but they offer you a letter of incorporation. That letter is good as well that you can utilize there. Next in there, you see the credentialing body authorization letter. Again, I talked about that a little bit. That's basically saying that you are an authorized training provider to be able to provide courses or exams or something on behalf of the credentialing body. Training metrics. If you do not have that credentialing body letter, you're going to go ahead and put those statistics right here. They will go under training metrics. Again, the statistics should be for at least 1 year's worth of data showing how many individuals have obtained the certification or completed the certification exam as a result of your training. And we like when you put those on there, make sure that it has at least the last name of the individual. That way, because we can verify and cross-reference the individual that you put in on there, not just a number. Website URL. Again, Word document, put your URL on there. And the course list, that's the information we needed with the name of the course, the credential it's related to, and the total cost. You can put that on a Word document as well as you like. That business license, you're going to put the expiration date right there. If you are receiving a letter of incorporation and it doesn't have a date on there for when it expires, just put it as 2 years out from your application that you're submitting. Your CAGE code number. This is a critical item. Everyone must have a CAGE code. You must go through sam.gov to start your CAGE code. I would do that before you begin the process because that can take a little bit and that's kind of outside of our control. So you will have to go through sam.gov and get your CAGE code and then make sure that your CAGE code expiration date is current. We are checking CAGE codes. We are checking CAGE codes. We are making sure that they are valid. And if they're not, we're in the process right now, even of contacting some of our vendors whose CAGE codes are coming due very soon. So we will be letting you know. To help us out, you could check in on your account as well to make sure that that information is correct. And then you'll hit next from there. You'll put your username, your title, your personal information. You'll certify that this is you. And normally they're going to want you to put these two in there. You're actually going to add up these two and put in the sum into the box. You'll hit next. It'll give you this message here. That doesn't mean that you're done yet. That just means that, hey, you've started the process for sending your information over for approval. So you'll hit submit. Once that comes over to our side, we'll review the application. If it's good to go, we'll send you back an approval email to let you know that you are an approved vendor with Army CA. If it's not approved, we will let you know what you need to go back and correct. You will have to resubmit your application again if we contact you and tell you that items have to be fixed, because we have to be able to disapprove it in order for you to be able to go back in and do anything with it. So make sure you're paying attention to the information you're putting in there and that you're good to go there. Here's some, I've got some key points and takeaways here. Any questions on anything that I just showed you before I go into those? Because your answer may be here, so I'll go ahead and go into those. So again, those applications are reviewed at a minimal every week. They're sent to our program manager, Mrs. Sweeney, for approval. Once she says, yes, that vendor is good to go, then you'll receive an approval email letting you know the next steps you need to take as far as starting to upload your courses and information. That is critical. Please make sure as soon as you are approved, upload your courses, upload your contact information. If it's not there, the soldiers aren't going to see that's available for you. Let me see. Once approved, you'll get the approval email. If rejected, make sure you follow the guidance and then resubmit it. If you receive an error when you submit it, make sure that your files aren't larger than 4 megabytes. Army CA may cover CEUs, PEUs, and recertifications for eligible soldiers. So keep that in mind as well. As long as the soldier's on active status and they still have funding remaining, Army CA may cover those continuing education units. When using a third party, funding will only go to you. So let's say you have your company, but you use company X to do your training for you. If the training does not come directly to you, then you're not going to get approved as a vendor. The money has to come directly to you. And then if you decide to pay a third party, you're more than welcome to do that. But we do not pay the third party for you. As a vendor, you are required to provide the grades and a certificate of completion to the soldier. So the grades, once the soldier is completed, you can go back into the AI portal. You'll be able to see that grades are due, or you can look up that individual. At the very end of where their name is, there'll be a drop down for a P or an F. It's all you need to select, either pass or fail. Same thing with prep courses. We expect a pass or fail on there for those as well, and a certificate of completion sent to the soldier. There's currently no service requirement for the officers and warrant officers. So that was taken away about 2.5 years ago now. So that currently they don't have to serve extra time if they participate in Army CA. And active duty members only receive $1,000 per fiscal year, and National Guard and Reserve $4,000 for certain aviation-related certifications and license. So if you have say you're offering the private pilot's license, and a soldier is wanting to take that with you, if they're active duty, the Army is going to pay them $1,000 per fiscal year to work toward that training. If they're Guard or Reserve, they're going to get paid $4,000 per fiscal year. But please be reminded this also ties in with their tuition assistance, so their funding may be greater, maybe less than or equal to that $4,000 amount. If you don't offer the item, say you are putting everything on your application, but you don't offer the exam, they have to go somewhere else to take the exam. Do not put it on your application. It makes it that much easier and it doesn't confuse the soldier. Again, every soldier is a lot. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Russell, real quick, can we just answer? JK has a question. I want to make sure we answer that real quick.
I guess my question was site URL.
Oh, we can't, can you speak up, please?
Yes, on the area where it says website URLs to exams training on the requirements, it says to provide a direct URL link to the correlated syllabus for specified credential in Army Cool, but we do not post our syllabus or training course outline online because our competitors could see it. How would we be able to satisfy that requirement for what's required there with the documentation? Because we could upload our syllabus, but it's larger than the 4 MB limited amount of data.
Yeah, so you don't have to post your syllabus, or you don't have to send us a direct link to the syllabus itself. As long as you can send us a URL that directs us to that course that you offer, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. And there's some other questions by Seth. Seth, can you come online now?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
All right. I guess let me just kind of start at the beginning here. So the organization I work for is the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy.
Mhm.
You probably have a lot of military personnel who basically want to get their CPA license, and that's where we come in, and that's who I am representing right now. So basically, I guess I'll start at the beginning just with my questions, and I'll come down to where we're currently at. So the main thing is you mentioned that we must submit a custom quote. Well, the thing is, when these candidates are applying for the exam, we don't know what they're applying for until they submit applications. So we really can't do a custom quote because we don't know what they're applying for. They also apply for two different things. They apply for an eligibility because they must be found eligible to take a CPA exam before they even apply for the exams. So there's two different processes there. And does the reimbursement or whatever you guys do cover the cost of like cost of an education evaluation? And then as far as the reimbursement goes, is this something where does Army Cool actually make the payment on the front end, or do they have to pay based off of a quote? Like, do we send them something and they send us a like a check payment? How does that happen?
Okay, can we pause there?
Yeah.
All right, so going back to the quotes, right? The custom quotes. So my question to you is, does it cost to apply and to determine eligibility?
Yes. And that depends on the jurisdiction they apply to. And there's basically 34 different jurisdictions they may apply to. So the fee can differ based off the jurisdiction.
Okay, so in that case, if they were not to be found eligible, do they get that money back, or is it covered?
They do not.
Okay, so then before they could apply for credentialing assistance, they would have to pay out of pocket for the eligibility portion to ensure they're eligible. Once they determine they're eligible, at that point, you should be able to give them a quote, correct?
Well, again, we wouldn't be able to give them a quote because we don't know what sections they are signing up for, and then any kind of additional fees, because candidates may choose to take an exam in Guam or take an exam internationally, and we don't know any of that information.
So at what point would they get a quote? After they've done all of this online with the...
Well, we don't send out any kind of quote. So our website has the information basically stating, if you're applying for the exam of this jurisdiction, this is what your fee is going to be. And if you apply for these exam sections, this is what your fee are going to be. And then we talk about the additional costs too, like this is what it costs to take an exam in Guam versus internationally. But like the candidate logs on, they apply for like a section of this exam, they pay that fee. Well, then after that, it's like, well, do they want to test in Guam or do they want to test internationally? They choose to do that. They don't tell us on the front end. So if they choose to do that, then they go on, they make a payment for it and that kind of thing. But it's nothing we know ahead of time.
Okay, so that's where we're going to run into some issues because they have to have a custom quote. If we allow them to go in and say, hey, I want to take this exam, but then we pay, we attempt to pay for it. And you say, oh, these guys never even signed up, they're not eligible, then we're wasting time, right? We're wasting a lot of time on the finance side, on the CA side. So that's why we require everyone to provide a quote before or while or when they're submitting their CA requests. Everything that soldiers never ever pay out of pocket for something that we're going to fund, right? So application fee, that kind of eligibility, we're most likely not going to pay for that because that is something that, that they may have to pay out of pocket to determine if they can even do it. But once you say, yeah, here's your quote, that is what we're going to fund that. We're going to pay you directly upfront prior to the start date. Does that make sense? We
It-
don't reimburse. We never reimburse the soldier.
Correct. And that makes sense, but then let me ask you a question, because I'm just trying to think of all the processes here, because once a candidate is found eligible,
Mhm.
they may not apply for an exam section until 5 years down the road. So
Understand.
I mean, is there any kind of limitation, I guess, on when they can submit this kind of stuff? I guess
Yeah. Right.
for that, there's not.
And we may need to have a separate meeting altogether so that we don't hold this one up, because your situation might be a little different. So we can definitely, set up a meeting with you.
No, that would be absolutely fine. I've actually been trying to get this set up since 2016.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So I put my email and Russell's and Dottie's in the chat. Just email us and then we'll schedule a time specifically with you.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Russell, back to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Soldiers must be able to complete their CA request no later than 30 days prior to their ETS. So make sure when soldiers are coming to you and they're telling you that, hey, they want to take this course, but the course lasts 6 months, but they get out of the service in 2 months, they probably shouldn't be signing up for this, and they're not going to get approved for it on our end if we check that up and see that it's going to cross over. So make sure you're discussing that with them as well when they come to you for their price quotes. Prior to submitting any marketing items on social media, i.e., you want to tell everybody that you've been approved for Army CA and that they can come and start training with you, you need to contact our office for review. Here's the email address. We'll make sure that email address is actually at the end of this, but you'll have it as well as we're going through. We want you to make sure that you contacted us first to make sure that the information you are providing is okay. If the vendor offers an item that they do not receive results on, it's the soldier's responsibility to attach those results in Army Ignited. So this is why it's critical for you to provide that soldier with that certificate of completion, be a pass or fail. That way they can submit it in and they can have their results and their CAR closed. All right. Well, I'm going to hop over to Sophia here. She's going to give you some information about Army Cool and some other things that may be coming down the line. And with that, I transfer it over to Sophia.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone joining today. My name is Sophia Sweeney. I'm the Credentialing Assistance Program Manager and Army Cool Program Manager. Before we move on, I want to answer Seth's questions. Back to the payments, how are fees going to be paid? Via check? No, it is done within the system. The AI portal has a process that vendors accept payments from. You'll get like an authorization letter, or eventually we'll get to a new system that pays your bank directly. So at this point, it is by government purchase card or credit card. And then shortly in the future, it'll be via paying your bank directly that is associated with your CAGE code. Okay, so I just wanted to go over Army Cool a little bit. That way you know where to go if you've not been on there, to kind of figure out what credentials you might offer, or whether you don't know what credential, this is a way to find it. You can see the links there. You can go directly to those links. It's a public facing website. There's no need to, the only platform it wouldn't support is Internet Explorer, right? So you can go through Chrome, Firefox, or even Edge. Okay, you can do this on your phone as well if necessary. But up top, to figure out where you want to, or what might be a credential that you have training for or towards, or maybe you're the credentialing agency and you offer it, you can look on the credential search there. Also wanted to bring your attention real quick to the Credentialing Assistance Program tab. We're right in the center, those orange buttons. One of them says Credentialing Assistance Program. That is where you would find, you could find all of the information, these slides, that kind of stuff, or like how to start slides. Those will be on that page as well. All the downloads, there's a lot of different downloads you can pull from there. But if you wanted to go there, please feel free. Okay, so next slide, please. So if you go to the credential search page, again, there's a couple different ways you can download or find, not download, but find the actual credential. You can go into the search by keyword, or you can do it by industry or occupation. But Army Cool has over 2,000 credentials currently. And if you do offer training, it must be for a credential that's found in Army Cool. Next slide, please. Oh, I take that back. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if you don't mind, Russell. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, just like I was talking about really quick, Credentialing Assistance Program. This has all the information like I was talking about. You could download the vendor CA process guide, which is here. We're updating it. Should be updated by the July 1st timeframe. This website gets updated once a month. So any type of, maybe you got added, you know, today as a vendor, here's our approved vendor list that you can download, but you won't show up until July, right? Because again, it's only updated once a month. A lot of soldiers have issues or may have some issues with submitting their CA request, or maybe they just don't know what they want to do. You can always send them to this page to where they can contact an Army CA counselor, and you know, they can be helped. The virtual counseling cell only helps soldiers. They do not discuss things with the vendors or with anyone else. So please, it's for soldiers only. Earlier, somebody asked about recommending a credential. You can absolutely do that by going here and clicking on recommend credential. From there, there's another page that says, or another link that says cool contact. And it's basically going to ask you, and maybe again, this, you know, you can add as many as you want. And if it is something that can align to a soldier's MOS or ASI or AOC, then it can possibly be added, right? That just takes, and it's taking a little longer than expected, so I'm just going to move on. But it normally takes up to, you know, could be up to like 90 days or a little longer, depending on the credentialing agency on whether they would allow or they want to meet the criteria to be a credentialing agency or for that credential to be added. Okay, so going into credential search, just like my screen, there's a lot of credentials and a lot of information here, so it takes you know, a little bit to populate. It's getting there. But as I was talking about, there is a search keyword. You can see there's over 2,000 credentials in here. If you search for a specific one, and we've talked about PMP a lot, so I'll just use that one, PMP, anything that has PMP in there will populate. You would just click on credential details if you're not sure if you have something that you know, maybe your training leads to one of these. Credentialing agency, we are looking for an authorized credentialing body letter authorizing you to provide the training. So we would be looking for a certificate from or a letter from PMI, right? Or if you don't, like he was talking about, statistics. Now for statistics, we see applications that show us like, oh, I had 5 people pass, 5 people, right? I need to see like details, right? Is there an actual name that's associated with those 5? We need to see the details. Once they passed your training, did they pass the actual exam? So that would require you to have tracked their the status of their exam, right? And if you can provide that for a year, then we can bypass the credentialing body letter. Okay, Anyways, this information has details like, you know, eligibility criteria and so forth, what's in the actual exam. And so if you are not sure if you offer training that leads to that, you can look here, right? To see like, okay, my training does have all of this information. But then you're going to need to contact PMI and ask, you know, ask the questions, you know, does my training, you know, meet the criteria to help a soldier get to, or a student get to this specific exam? So that's the type of things that we're looking for when we're looking for statistics or credentialing body letter, or if you just want to make sure that your credential is an Army Cool, you're going to go here to do that. Again, recommend credentials, and the CA program is found right here. Okay, back to your slides, please. All right, so that being said, do you have any questions at this time? And sometimes, go ahead, American Aerospace Technical Academy. You were first.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so we are a apprenticeship training, and all of that information that's needed, I'm pretty sure, I mean, we have all that. The max for the reservists and active duty, the difference, how do we know, or how do they know how many years they've been active to what they're able to pay? Is that just something that, is it 1,000 per year, or is it differ for each person?
Are you like for aviation type credentials?
Yes, ma'am.
So if just like I showed you on my on the website on the credentialing assistance tab, there is a policy in there, and it talks about the aviation credential. See, it says credentialing assistance funding reduction policy for select aviation credentials for active duty soldiers. So if you look at that, you'll see, you know, who can take what, right? Like, and how much they would actually be authorized. And that's the same thing with the soldier. They will be told, if they're on active duty, you're only authorized $1,000. So they do know, or they are told. And if they don't know, then that's something that you can bring to their attention. Or if they don't, like, let's just say something costs $4,000 and they only get $1,000 for it, they are going to be required to pay you the remaining $4,000 out of pocket.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Mindy?
Hi, thanks. It's my understanding that, well, I know that there was sort of a rocky rollout between Army Ignited 1.0 and 2.0. We're active in the TA system, so I'm still learning more about the CA system. It was my understanding that a while ago, like maybe a year ago, that the timing of the payments to the vendors could, the timeline could be pretty tight as far as when the payment arrived at the vendor and when the training started, like even the day before. So what's the timing on that now? And if the timing was that tight, that would be problematic for us. What's the timing looking like these days?
Yeah, so the timing is actually looking pretty good. I know that we are, like, when I say we, I'm going to talk about ACAPO. That's our team that processes the CA requests. We're out at least 3 to 4 months, or 3 to 4 months, 3 to 4 weeks. I'm sorry. So if we're about 3 to 4 weeks, that means that gives finance and, you know, a lot longer to be able to process all those cases. But they are pretty much, you know, a week ahead, maybe 2, just depends. But yeah, there's not a lot of paying after the start date or, you know, late last minute type things. So it's gotten a lot better. And then when we move to a new system, the GFIB system, which I know you're familiar with, it'll be even, I believe it's going to be a lot quicker.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Sophia, before we jump on to more questions, I wanted to make sure we gave Steve a chance to, if he wanted to say anything to the group.
Thanks, Russell. Hey, everyone. Steve Clare. I'm the credentialing division chief, and this is one of the programs that I manage. I appreciate everyone taking interest in wanting to potentially become a partner with the Army and our wonderful program. It is increasingly becoming more popular and more sought after by all soldiers of all components. So we really look forward to follow-on conversations. We look forward to receiving your applications, then your MOAs, and really encourage you to consider providing this opportunity for soldiers to participate and earn a credential. So appreciate it, Russell. I don't want to take any more time up other than some of these potential vendors who have questions. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who had any further questions that we may not have answered in the chat yet? Let's see. American Aerospace still has your hand up. Do you still have a question or? Sophia, you seeing any others there?
Nope, I think we are good to go. I do want to thank everyone for joining and hope to see your applications soon. Back to you, Russell.
And I echo what Sophia said. Thank each and every one of you for joining us today. We had a great crowd today, great numbers, and we hope that each and every one of you will help that approved vendor list become less on the pending and more on the approved. So we look forward to seeing you soon. I'll stop the recording here, and thanks again for all you do.
We thank you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
You too, sir.